Here with us for this week's Almond Matters segment, we're joined by Todd Burkdoll, Field Market Development Specialist with Valent U.S.A. And we're here towards the latter half of April, and with that, it's going to mean temperatures are going to be on the rise here fairly soon. So what's that going to mean for when we're thinking about mites and what growers are going to be wanting to look out for and prepare for at this point in the season?
Brian, when the heat comes on, you've got basically the perfect storm for mites. And if you've had a history of mites in the past, there's pretty good probability you're going to have them in the future. So, like I said, as the weather heats up, the overwintering females will start laying eggs, and if they haven't already, and then what you're going to see is nymphs out there on the leaves. My plan of attack on mites is once you see overwintering females, they tend to be pretty good size as far in the mite world. Nothing's really big, but they tend to be larger. They're fat. They got eggs in them. Once you start seeing them out there on the leaves, one or two, it's a good time to start thinking about miticide application. In the case of mites, an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. And getting them early and taking out that early population before they have a chance to exponentially take off is a very good thing, in my estimation and in my experience. Getting them before they get out of hand is the key. And you can go on with, there's ovocyte materials, kill the eggs. Zeal works really well because it's got ovicidal as well as the nymphs. It doesn't do anything to the females, the overwintering females. It doesn't touch the adults, but make their eggs sterile. But if they've already laid the eggs, it'll kill the eggs, and the nymphs will not go on to the next stage of growth. So you basically knock out that early population, and by doing so, it helps you stay clean longer. If we do have a resurgence, later on, there's a lot of contact materials you can come back with. But getting them early is, I do that every year to start out early. Usually it's around mid to late May, depending on heat units. And for the last 4 years, that's the only miticide application I've had to apply. So it's a good tool. It's just a matter of monitoring them and getting them before they get out of hand.
And in terms of monitoring, what seems to be a general rule of thumb of what type of heat units or temperatures are we looking at when mites really kind of start to become a serious problem out there? When do they start kind of coming around?
Well, when you see temperatures in the high 80s, low 90s, it's a good indication that, things are heating up, and you need to start looking for them. Usually I look on it'd be the older leaves, not in the interior of the canopy where they've moved on to. And that's where I check for. And once I see females there, it's time to pull the trigger on an application. And then, it's about that time where you can put a foliar. So it's not just the miticide, you can put a foliar nutrition, or if you've got other pests, like leaf-footed plant bug comes into play there too. It'll start showing up, stinging, baby fruit or fruit that's developing. And of course it messes them up and they get emesis on the fruit, and inside the fruit they never develop right. So it's a good time to spray for them as well. Actually, the two go hand in hand, early miticide application and leaf-footed plant bug. Once you start seeing them, typically they'll overwinter in other crops and they'll migrate into almonds. Pomegranates, if getting pomegranates around, it's a magnet for leaf-footed plant bug. They overwinter in trees and in the mummied fruit on the ground, whatever, they have nymphs there. And once the adults come out, they start, attacking and laying eggs, and you'll see clusters of eggs and then clusters of the nymphs. But if you can kill the adults before they lay eggs, it's always a good thing. Get them before they get out of hand. But it's not always possible, it's just, they're big birds. They're the B-52s of the insect world and they can fly a long ways and, move in and move out too. So, but it's a good thing to monitor for and spray your mites at the same time.
And just lastly here, this particular pest seems to be able to proliferate fairly quickly. I mean, what's the rate on that? I mean, how quickly can these populations build without, getting some mitigation efforts out there in a timely manner?
Oh, mites can go, they can go really rapidly. It depends on heat units, degree days and whatnot, but they can go from 1 to 1 million in a couple of weeks. I mean, it's exponential. The growth is exponential. It doesn't take very long. I've seen fields within 30 days from first seeing mites to just being completely webbed over and, haunted forest type conditions because of the webbing and mites everywhere. Mites is a serious pest. It's not very big. It's a small pest, but needs to be taken seriously. Otherwise, it can literally, because they have such a high fecundity, they reproduce like crazy. I mean, it's one female. I don't know the numbers exactly, but one female produces a lot of eggs, and it doesn't take very long for those nymphs to go from pseudo nymphs to adults in a pretty quick frame of time.
So definitely want to get out there preemptively before things get out of control there. And once again, Todd Burkdoll with Valent U.S.A. Todd, thanks again for taking the time here and sharing some insight on mite management.
No problem, Brian. Anytime.